Hello, everyone, and welcome to What's the Damage? I am your host, Truth. No, I'm not.
Not truth.
Lies!
I know.
You are lies.
Sorry, Truth. I'm
She is
stealing.
lies.
I'm officially stealing Truth's job because I just want more work for myself. No. She is unable to make it tonight. Those of you in the United States might know that there is apparently a deep freeze happening. The apocalypse has come. And,
it's called Ragnarok. Show some respect to the Norse.
And well, that was an apocalypse. And
I know. I'm just saying, use its proper name. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, you know what? Ragnarok is normal for me. I'm a Canadian. Like that. This is just like normal weather.
This is summer.
But yeah,
feels
exactly.
like Thursday.
This is like warm for us. No, but yeah, apparently everyone's power is like kind of out. Internet's out in a lot of places, and so Truth is hunkering down and starting fires in her apartment. I'm just joking. She's probably not doing that. Landlord, if you're listening, this is not happening. But trying to keep warm and deal with the no power situation and stuff like that. So I took it upon myself to host this one, but I'm not really hosting because we're going to talk about the episode or the session that happened on Friday. And then we're going to go through just back and forth questions between my players, 3 of which I have here, and me. About the campaign and just stuff that we've done and choices that we've made and things like that, and we'll see what we can reveal and what we can't. But yeah, I figured this would be like the special edition of DM versus PCs. So please stick around. We will get through everything. Remember, we have links to important subjects and important resources at the end of our stream, so stick around for those. Otherwise, I guess I'm your host, Serenity, and this is What's the Damage? All right, we are back. So I guess I should do I think I was supposed to do this in the intro, but obviously I am not Truth and I'm a terrible host, and this is why I DM and I don't host things. And she does a wonderful job, but normally she goes over what happened in the last session. My brain is terrible, but I will try to remember. So basically the party went back to the room with like the 3 openings, decided to go down the middle one, had some shenanigans there, found out that there was a door with like a snake coiled around a sword or dagger of some kind, decided fuck that after like an illusionary sort of trap tried to squish them. They figured that one out and then were like, nah, we out, after they heard some weird whispers in a language none of them, except for Oriana, sort of understood. And Oriana failed to tell the group until they were pretty much at the top, out of the back into the room. Then Perry decided to speak up and say, well, we can try getting across the chasm again. Used her conjure animals to fly everyone with giant owls across, where they then attempted to make it through a very heavily trapped hallway to a wall at the very end of it before deciding, well, this was a dead end, going back the other way and flying back over, having made quite a bit of noise in their attempts to figure out this hallway before running themselves into a group of strange creatures that could turn them to stone through sight, managing to power through it with some smart abilities and spells, and managed to take them out, and then ended the session with them finishing these creatures. So, guys, what's the damage?
I mean, mostly emotional from almost picking up statues, and also from being just really insulted by those walls. You know, not the walls themselves, but just the idea of walls in general. I feel hurt.
I mean, as
Walls open
any
new doors.
and as any good D&D player will tell you, walls, doors, and traps are your greatest mortal enemy.
Oh, yeah, it's the triumvirate of terror.
Yeah.
Is what that is.
All right, so what was the decision making behind going back to figure out that pit versus any of the other places that you hadn't been, and spending spells that you guys had kind of already agreed to like not do? Like that was the whole reason you didn't go across in the first place, but then decided this time, okay, let's do it. Like, what was the thought process behind that versus like either going up the other path or going back the way you came and trying the first fork that you were?
My snarky snide comment would be, it's cute that you think we had a thought process.
I know part of the thought process because I'm married to the person that had the idea to fly people across the chasm. Is she didn't think about it on the day. That's why.
Yeah, but it was still, I mean, though, one of the things that you guys had originally kind of talked about was, well, we don't want to waste high level spells for this at so early in the day.
Right.
Just so much high level.
Just to get across a pit, and that cost you 2 third level spells.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it wasn't so much that we didn't want to use any high levels. I think what we were talking about on the day, because I didn't know that Conjured Animals was prepared or anything either. What we were talking about on the day was just using Levitate to get everybody across, but that only gets us across. It doesn't get us back.
Yeah.
And using all of his spells, using all of Campion's spells, rather, to get us across means that we still have to spend something to get back. So when we had a way that only burned one spell to get us across, and theoretically could also be used to get us back, I think that was the point where people were just like, okay, well, maybe it's worth checking out at least.
Okay.
Well, it seemed like it was like no one wanted to do the snake door. No one wanted to do like the barricaded wood door. So it was like there was like going back or checking this thing out while we're here. And I guess that's just like me just was like, oh, since we're here at this pit again, why not do the pit again?
I guess my other question is why the pit where you knew you would have to burn stuff again versus a door where you could maybe just smash it down?
Ariana was outvoted.
Ariana never even said anything about the door.
Oh, you guys want to go to the pit? Yeah. I thought. Yeah, the thing like.
Don't say Ariana was outvoted because she never even said do the door. Let's go to the door instead and just break it.
Yeah, because
she was in a bit of a mood because people in the group had called her out for withholding information that she thought was safer to withhold.
Yeah.
Well, Oriana's been completely telling everyone, don't go this way, don't go this way, don't go this way, because she's like shitting her pants at someone.
Right, and it's it's like, well, if this way, it's like we don't want to like break into someone's home and like the wood, because they were assuming that the wooded one is someone's home.
Yeah.
The snake door was like, this is creepy. So we probably like, most everyone, it seemed like, other than I think me, was like, let's go to the snake door. I think Perry Quinn might have said something like that.
No, I think they didn't want to stay any longer
Right,
because you
but
got
yeah,
caught in that trap.
most of us didn't want to stay there. So it was like, it seemed like, well, since if we're gonna go back, this is like here, and we haven't explored all this fully. It seems like we're not going this way. We can use some resources for this because seems like a path we could explore, finish it, see what's happened at the end of it, and then if there's nothing there, then we can go back, trace our steps back, and then take a rest if we need to, and do something unexplored at that point, which I guess we kind of did. It just kind of took a little longer process, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And I would clarify, Oriana didn't necessarily want to go back to the pit, but she also didn't want to just be saying no again on this.
Why was Oriana holding out the word? I don't get the idea behind like not telling the group after you had already gone through the trap and like dealt with it. I'm just curious as to like what was Oriana thinking there by not at least giving the word and seeing if the group could figure anything out, or if they still wanted to leave as a group. Why withhold the information until basically you had spent more resources getting back up the tunnel again to leave?
I don't want to keep using the near-death experience, well, the actual death experience that she had as an excuse. And but it's not entirely. No, and that's not entirely what's going on here. It's a part of it. Like, we're in this dark underground tunnel, this invisible trap thing just set off, and now a strange language no one seems to understand, aside from one word, seems very odd and fishy. She didn't really want to act on it, and she knew that there were people in the group that would probably want to act on this. And in Oriana's mind, if there's one trap, there's probably more. So proceeding further into this situation, which just seems outright dangerous, when the group's already deciding to leave, yeah, she's going to do that. She's going to withhold that information.
And now instead she got yelled at by a bunch of people because she withheld information and therefore took the choice away from people as to whether or not they wanted to go investigate the thing with the new information. I
understand the character choice. Because I mean, but like as a player wise, I think like in my head, it's better to fully explore like a path and find out that it's not explorable anymore further. And then decide after that, because like the last couple of sessions, we've kind of been like in the same area. Yeah, we kind of been in the same area and kind of like exploring an area halfway, kind of going back and then using more resources to explore another area halfway instead of going fully into one, expend it. So using the resources if we want to save or not, that's up to us. But if like using it when we can, if we need to, get to the end and be like, well, we know this is the end. So we can rest here and then find out another pathway.
So this is my other question is like, I'm curious as to like, okay, you guys like half explored that big room and then you were kind of like, okay, like this seems weird. It doesn't feel good. We're going to go a different way. And then you went down like that, the hallway of the like snake door thing. And that also was like, this is fucked. This is weird. Maybe we shouldn't be here. Then you came back out. I mean, now Perry obviously offered and said, hey guys, I can conjure animals and get us across there. Why not check the other pathways first to see if that would get you closer to your goal? And if you would even have to expend any more resources, maybe it leads you to another chasm, or maybe it leads you to a dead end or something like that. But at least you would know what was down those hallways versus going back, expending a whole bunch to get across this thing that maybe nets you get something, but maybe doesn't net you anything. Maybe doesn't take you where you need to go. Maybe takes you somewhere completely off course. Like what was the thought process behind that? Because like again, the whole reason you stepped back from that original room was like, this doesn't feel right. We don't want to spend a whole bunch of stuff. Let's go back up. We still have like two other choices plus that fork that we came from. And it seemed like you guys were still stuck on the rope room, which, hey, I love it, but I'm just curious as like what what was the idea behind like getting across that chasm and wanting to really investigate what was behind there?
I mean, for me, that was the first idea that had some actual. The idea had some legs and seemed as though it could take us somewhere.
Right.
And everything else was just sort of like, I mean, I guess we could go over here and look at that, or we could go bash that thing down. But everybody's just sort of still in disagreement as to whether or not we do want to bash down a barricade that leads to. Meh. So it was the first thing we were like, hey, yeah, that actually could do something. It was like a simple, here is the task that needs to be done. Here is the solution that will actually accomplish this task. Like, hey, that sounds perfect. Let's do this thing that has a guaranteed result. And then it didn't have the actual guaranteed result because we found another wall. But still, that first part, that was where the money was.
It was the friendship we made along the way, Quinn.
So at what point, once you guys had started going through that hallway, like, was there any point where you guys were like, this is a lot of traps? Like, should we continue going?
No,
I know you
yeah.
guys, I know
At
you
the
guys
first
had a
trap,
couple of
at the
times where
first
you
trap.
guys were like, we should just run through, or we should like stop. And I'm just curious as to like, at what point did you guys like? Was there a point where you were kind of like, this might not be, because I think you ended up spending like also a couple of like, I think you spent a wild shape and a dispel magic,
Yep.
which is also a high level.
Yep.
So what was the sort of thought process behind that, especially when at the I believe before you got the dispel magic off, Balthaim did see a
wall,
a potential dead end.
For me, it was the fact that there was resistance. And that's just me thinking in terms of like every video game or every session of D&D I've ever played in my fucking life, where you want to go in a direction. If it's easy to get there, it doesn't really matter if you go that way or not. Like, yeah, fine, go down that road. It's okay. But if you start going in a direction, all of a sudden, enemy spawn, trap, dragon falls out of sky. You know you're onto something. You know, like, there is definitely going to be something at the end of that. You just have to push through the pain and get past all the stuff that's in your way. And I was wrong. Video games lied to me.
We don't know. I mean, you guys rolled some pretty awful investigation checks. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and now we can't go back.
Well. My thing is this. This is consistent. Like, I just want to finish a path. Find out there. Now we know that there's nothing there right now. So that's valuable knowledge. Like, now we know there's a room. There's like a space that is heavily trapped that we've managed through, that we could potentially use as a resting point. That's still like, we know something about it. Like, it's just not just like a amoeba of like what could be here. Like, we explored it. We've like gone to as far as our ability has allowed us to go to it in this way. And so it's like, we know something more than just this is a path we can take. Like, now we know there's things like there's a space there that's heavily trapped, and so that's still knowledge.
Yeah, you know what is down that way.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I don't want to speak for other people, but for Oriana, give me Oriana at level 4, and she would have wanted to go down that entire trapped hallway, no questions asked. As soon as we got to one trap, and she was like, "Oh, okay, well, it's a simple trap. We could just literally step over the plate, and everybody's fine." Then there was a second trap, and she's like, "Is this worth really exploring? I mean, who would set up all these traps to protect ore? That seems kind of weird. Where are we going? What would put all these defenses in place?" Like, Oriana was just... She was interested from a puzzle solving aspect because she loves puzzles. She loves stories and things like that. But she really had no interest to go down that hallway. And by the time we had invested...
at some point you have to cut your losses. I mean, at some point you either cut your losses or you pay it forward and get through it, right?
Yeah. And we decided we were going to like power through that thing.
I mean, you guys had some pretty good ideas for... You had some pretty good ideas for like the traps and stuff like that. Like, Oriana had a really good one where she was able to completely disable the second magical trap, which was quite smart. and that got rid of one. And then you guys were able to kind of like figure out the third one by using like Perry and her ability to wild shape, which was good. And then I mean Quinn was able to get rid of the last one through a dispel. So I think you guys were pretty resourceful there. I guess what is the like at least for you guys and your player, your characters, what is your mindset right now? I mean, you've gone through a lot. You've spent quite a bit of time already and resources and have yet to see any payout of like what you're actually looking for. Like where are you guys in terms of like thought process and like whether this is worth the time and effort at this point?
From a purely player perspective, we haven't lost anything of monetary value aside from time.
Right.
Which, knowing our group, I mean, we're always going to end up going down almost every single path. Even if we went down the right path on the first try and found all the ore we needed and then some, we still would have gone down other paths.
There could be cool things here, guys. Don't we want to see the cool things?
What about the Flumph colony? They've got to be in here by now.
Nah, they're dead.
Shut your drunk mouth.
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore's just like, I mean, we're here to get ore. That's cool. Like to him, like even like monetary value is not super high to him. Like he's like, okay, money, cool. Like I guess we're like, he's like, oh, I guess I'm helping Campion. That's fine. Like he's just in it for like he's just in it for the adventure of like what we're doing. Like he's like, if this is gonna help Campion,
but he has
like,
other things that he also wants to do. Is like, is there a point where Baltaim stops being so laid back and is like, you know, my sister's still missing.
Right, and that's why he
wasted like fucking 4 hours to find a wall.
Right.
Or 5 hours or 6 hours plus spells, plus you've already rested once to get your spells back. Plus some people almost got turned to stone. Like, is there a point where Baltaim kind of like goes, hey, like, are we making the right choices here? I'm just this is purely just conjecture and me asking, but is there a breaking point for him, or is he always just kind of willing to go with the flow?
I think, and that's why he brought up, like, there's nothing tying us to this mine, guys. Like, we understand if things go south, we don't have to stay here. Like, this is not like a consequence stuff. There are way bigger things in our world that could be like, you know, we can be dealing with. He's like that's why he brought it up. Like, we don't have to stay here. But I think that he's not seen something so much that he has to jump on it yet. I think there could be something that comes to a point where he's like, no, we're not doing all this other extra stuff. Like, we're going to do this. That could potentially be something that comes up if like there's something like concrete he can like see, understands. It's like, let's do, like, we have to do this now. Like, there's not a other option. There's no other side tangents. Okay. I can see that happening. Yeah.
So then let me put this towards Quinn.
Yo.
Quinn is always the guy who's like, I'm keeping my third levels so that I can revive someone. He literally used all of his third levels plus his fourth. And there's still half a day left. What's his thought process at this point? And again, all they found is like a wall and a pit with something creepy at the bottom, potentially.
Yeah.
Where's his mindset at this point?
I mean, for this right now with Quinn, honestly, he is just still in the whole idea of trying to be more selfless and do more good. And he did actually he did say that they would help this guy get his thing. So he hasn't encountered any kind of great personal cost that's going to deter him from doing that yet. And there's nothing that he personally has that's pressing. And also, since he's trying to not push the group in any direction, he has no dog in this fight as far as pushing forward things on time. I mean, yeah, he's got someplace to go before they leave the continent, but that's literally before they ditch out on the continent and call up their probably, I don't know, super magic archdevil Faith or something friend to give him a magic teleport Uber over to where they need to be. So he's like, his far off calendar is pretty booked up, but his day to day is really loose. Therefore, he doesn't really see the need to just piece out of the mine yet and give up. Also, because it would help Campion to get the thing that they're after as well. So, I mean, if
I'm just wondering how many of you are. I guess I'm just wondering how many of the characters are worried about losing it. Like, again, this fight could have gone very, very differently had a couple of people turned to stone.
I am,
and so I'm just curious, like, how some of the given like the harrowing battles that have kind of led up to this and things not going your way, and then having used quite a few resources, especially from someone like Quinn, who's always been the one who has brought people back. Like, is he at all worried that, like you said, you haven't lost anything yet, but Quinn did just use something very important to him to be less selfish in his mind, and then to watch that potentially be wasted because you are not using your prudence to like figure out like maybe the most prudent choice isn't to do this. I'm just curious, as is he thinking at all of that? Like, it seems like Oriana's really the most worried one of the group, and the rest of everyone else is kind of like, yeah, we're still okay. And I guess that's the mindset right now, is even though you've used quite a bit, you're still feeling like, we can still handle whatever comes in the next little while. If we get into another bad thing, then maybe we'll have to.
Yeah, I mean, so far that's about where he's at, because if anyone can make a really compelling argument as to why to just, say, fuck this, take our ball and go home, then, Quinn will go with group consensus and leave. And seeing as how right now the only person that's making a dissenting argument is Oriana, and the way that Oriana has been making the dissenting argument is just, no, I don't want to, no, I don't want to, no, I don't want to, blah, 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 blah. That's kind of how I was interpreting it. He's just sort of digging in his heels, like, no, I disagree, and I am annoyed by your argument, so I'm not going to do that. Someone else try saying something, and then maybe he'll listen.
Fair enough. So then I will reverse it and say, okay, as your player, what's your mindset continuing on with the amount of resources you have now used, and you still have half a day's travel left to go in the mine?
Lady, I've been in underground encounters that you've run before. I'm scared for my damn life right now. So as a player, I am just like praying to anything that'll listen and hoping for the best. As a character, I'm blissfully ignorant of the hell that awaits me.
Yeah, as a player, I do feel like that sense of like I have the same, like, do your sisters like out there, like because like I'm not thinking as the character, so I'm like I'm trying to like interpret Baltim's thoughts into my thoughts, because I'm not trying to like I don't think Baltim's like a pushy person in general.
No,
not at all.
So I'm trying to like hold back of like, well, we need to do like we need to like fast track everything, because like as a player, I feel like, well, like if this is like in my own self, I'm like, no, I'm fuck out all the side stuff. Like, we're going to do this. Like, I need to go like follow this thing. So it's a balancing act for me, because I'm trying to like let the player let the character be the character, and like still have that sense of urgency as like the player, because I'm like, as like in me, I'm like, this, like, yeah, it's not. This is nice. This is a nice, like, it's a side quest, but it's like it's some consequences. Like, it would help Campion out, but it's not of like great importance to us at this moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I'm juggling that as a player, because I'm like, I understand, like, this is not like on a priority list. It's not like the top thing on the priority list.
Yeah, I get it. What about you, Jake?
Oriana was completely fine with us just finding this ore and leaving from the get-go, honestly. And the only reason
find it.
No.
You still haven't found it. So
she's still willing to find the ore, because she's promised that she would find, at least try and look for it. So until things get to the point where, okay, we can't be here anymore, she's not going to absolutely like just walk off and say, see you guys, I'm going home.
Even though that's what she's been threatening the whole time we've been down here.
No, she hasn't been threatening to leave. She's been just saying, well, I'm not going to go across if we're burning all of our artificer's magic to do so. Or, and another example, with the snake door. The ore's not there. She's very. I guess if I was comparing her, I guess if I was comparing her to like a video game, she is very much. Can we just get the main quest done and be on with this? I mean,
what about player though now? So now, like you're I get Oriana's like mindset of like where she is. I'm saying like now that you've fought basilisks and you watched your cleric burn through all of his 3rd levels, your druid burned 2, and like you guys are dwindling resources. What's player thinking in terms of like the rest of this side quest?
That even if we manage to go straight to the ore at this point, that we're probably not going to have enough stuff left in the tank to get in and out safely.
No. Yeah, no. I think we're spending at least another day here.
I know we're going to be spending another day here. Are you kidding me?
No, I'm saying at least like the
still have
least
a 3rd path.
Yeah.
See what happens.
And I'm pretty sure player is pretty sure that we were supposed to take the other path at the first fork. That's what the scratch marks were supposed to be. I
mean, this player is fairly certain that those may have been basilisk claw marks that led in that direction, and that's where the nest is up there. So if we go up there, then there's going to be more basilisks that we have to run into and make sure that we say the code phrase from last week. I avert my gaze. Just throwing that out there is like that
would have meant that the knock sound effect would have traveled like almost a mile or something.
Have you been in a?
It's a cave. Yeah.
And
pretty loud.
It's a cave, but there's still sound dampening within a cave.
There's echoing.
There's more amplification than
a snap of your finger, but a 300
but knock is a loud
300
spell.
foot like thunderous booming sound.
Yeah. Also, think of it this way: the knock spell came from the dead end of a stone hallway. So you think that carries far normally?
But there was also a giant
over there.
Yeah.
There was also a giant pit with a volume of who knows how much.
Which is true, but still, it had a head start, basically, on like how much of a boost it was going to get before any dampening effect could have occurred.
I mean, who knows? Whatever was in the bottom of that pit could have come out of the bottom of that pit.
Please no. Keep Cthulhu in his bed. Cthulhu stays in Ryla until it's time.
My point is, player still wants to try and get the damn ore because we said we would, but the player is not kidding themselves with, we can get out of here without spending any more spells.
Oh no, that ship sailed.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right. I will turn it over to you guys and let you ask me a question.
I have one that I think everybody wants to know the answer to. When you're planning out these traps and puzzles and such, you put all this work into it, you think, this is gonna be great, and then we actually tackle them. If you could put it on a scale of 1 to 10, how stupid are we? Like,
you're not.
I mean, like when we finally run into these things, and you see us banging our heads against a literal wall.
I mean, some of them are traps, some of them are puzzles, some of them are there as red herrings sometimes. Mm-hmm. It really depends. And which is which is a method of trial and error for you guys. But like in terms of the traps, I think you guys did a really good job on them. I think you avoided most of the only one that actually damaged anyone was the exploding one, and it was just the initial not realizing that magical traps were there as opposed to just physical ones. But I mean, you with your investigations and your like quick thinking, you were able to get through them. So I don't think you guys are like, I don't sit there and I'm like, oh man, they're so dumb. Like they're never going to figure this out. I also try not to make traps or puzzles where like it's just impossible or you're going to spend 3 hours trying to get through it.
Oh yeah, I know. That's what I mean. Is like whenever you make these things, like, this is gonna be great. They won't have too much trouble with this. I don't think.
To be honest, I try to think of like the strengths of the group and then how you guys can pool sort of your efforts together to make something workable for you. Um, and then oftentimes you guys just think of things that I wasn't even aware of, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that'll work.
You mean like using a letter opener to scratch up a rune?
That was a nice move.
Yeah, I mean, you said you had a small knife. I mean, even if you didn't, you could have borrowed like Baltaim's sword or something like that. Like I don't, I'm not gonna be like picky about that kind of crap. But yeah, like if you guys think of really interesting, neat ways of doing things, I'm totally open to the idea. But yeah, the way that I set those things up, to be honest, like I knew that hallway was going to be trapped. I knew how many traps there were going to be. I didn't know what the traps were going to be until you got there, and then I was just I made all 4 of those up on the fly. So
well done.
So those were all just like, I knew what I wanted to have. I just did. I wasn't sure exactly what it would be, because I was like, well, am I going to spend the time like figuring out exactly what each of these traps is going to be? Because then I've wasted a whole bunch of time if they never even go here. So I was just like, when they get there, I can figure out. That's easy enough. It's like the more lore-based stuff that gets like harder if I don't have something written down for you guys. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you guys, figure it out. Sometimes you guys decide not even to, continue down a path, and I'm like, oh well, maybe I'll use it again sometime in the future if they if they never even encountered it, and I can like place it somewhere else in the world. But
I have a question that I think you'll probably veto, but I'm hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
Since we dispelled the last trap in there, will you tell us what the wisdom save was for?
Polymorph.
Interesting. That would have been fun.
I was just curious because all we got was a
I can
wisdom
tell you that
save,
it's just it's not important. It would have just turned you.
You're all welcome.
It would turn you into an animal for an hour. So
fun. Well, glad that didn't happen.
Maybe it would have turned you into a bird. You could have
Oh,
flown
that's
across
true.
without having to expend a spell.
It's true, and probably would have pooped on one of the other people in the party, because that's just what
Although
birds
depending
do.
on the bird, if it didn't have dark vision.
Yeah, that would have been miserable.
Fly down, just accidentally fly down into the pit.
But yeah, it was a polymorph. It was supposed to just be a fun thing at the end there. Okay.
That's a fun trap.
I've got another question if no one else has any.
Well, no, I have
Yeah, go
one.
ahead.
I have one for
Okay.
for you guys.
Go for it.
So, when you initially made a character for this world,
Mhm.
what was your sort of initial thought process behind how you wanted them to sort of integrate into the world? And has this initial sort of arc that you've been through been anything that you expected, or has it just been completely different than what you had envisioned for?
That's very similar to the question I have. I'll piggyback that. I'll answer and when we're all finished, I'll piggyback off that with my question as well, because I have a similar
I'm
question.
gonna let you answer because I
Yeah.
just need to run for a second, but I'm around.
Yeah, for me, I can't, like, I envisioned I want to be like I want to like look at the history and have some understanding of it, and like not like ingrain my character into history, but like have my character be like some like a cog in like what is going on, and like what like I want to like make sure like I understood like the places that he's from, or like the like what his like the culture of that place would be like, for like what that culture would like be like represented on that character. And that's like, for me, that's why I like the very like agrarian like style of clothes he wears. Like it's very like you can see like this type of like culture onto a person type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I made Quinn, I couldn't really decide if I wanted to go with the whole paradigm of someone like Captain America or Iron Man, in the sense that one will change the world to suit them, and the other will change with the world. You know,
Right.
like, and I've I kind of I think at this point I've almost done both, because I had him fit into the world as much as someone from a little fishing village on an island would be able to fit into the wider world confusedly and with no real idea of what goes on for the most part beyond, the borders of the land itself. So, when he first gets off the island and has his own mission to try and, find his family and all that, then it's okay, well, I have this, and the world is just going to adapt to the fact that I need to accomplish this goal. That didn't work. So now he's sort of trying to go the other direction, where he needs to find out, instead of forcing the square peg through the round hole to find his place, he needs to see exactly where and how he fits.
Yeah, and I think that's like I see like, and I took that in my mind too. Like I think a lot of the other characters, you guys' characters are like very dynamic characters. They have like Quinn has grown since like the beginning of this campaign, has grown into a different character. And I kind of want Baltine to be a static character. He's changed in ways, yes, but like as ultimately like the person Baltine has been in the beginning of the campaign is like relatively been similar to what he is now. And I kind of want that like different, like I want other characters to react around him instead of reacting to other characters, type of thing.
Mhm.
Where, because since I assumed a lot of the player characters would make dynamic characters anyway, and so their characters would evolve and grow, and it's a different point of view of seeing like what this character's arc is and how they grow, and then another thing is seeing like how this character grows around another like static character that stays mostly similar to the whole time. And he might change into a dynamic character eventually, but
Yeah.
That's a very interesting thing I thought of when I was thinking about the boss game as well. I want him to try to be like he's relatively like emotionally at the same level he's been the whole campaign.
When I made Oriana, honestly, I went in with one goal, which is be as just impressed and surprised by the story that our lovely DM can come up with, because I've seen her craft so many epic stories and tales. So I very purposely, I read the lore that my character would be aware of, which was mostly Atrillin and mostly specifically about Riverren. The history of the country, not so much, or rather maybe not the whole history, but the parts that the country would want the public to know about. So a lot of the things like the horrors of Gia, which she's talked about, weren't things that she was aware of, but was made aware of and was a part of her character's journey. But I had no kind of preconceived notions of what was going to happen to Oriana or what plans were going on with her. I had a couple of things in mind for her. She wants to find the truth. She wants to make a story of her own that's worthy of the greatest libraries. And she wants to do something good for the world. Those were the three principles I had really given Oriana. And for me, the fun of playing this character is just getting to know the character as she's developing and seeing all these different things in her. I literally get a little too into my own head. And Oriana's emotions will often bleed into my emotions. So like last session, when people were calling her out for lying, I actually got a little mad. I'm like, I was trying to help you guys. So it's this really interesting thing for me, because it literally is almost like a perfect escape mechanism, because I can just disappear into Oriana and enjoy the world unfolding around me and seeing it for what it is, which is a great story.
So I'll ask then what the arc that your characters are currently taking and that you've seen unfold so far. Anything you expected or were hoping for, or were surprised by or excited by or whatnot, or is it kind of like going in the way that you expected and is like, okay, I kind of get it.
Oh, nothing like I expected. I did not expect Oriana to be already considering returning home after what she's maybe been traveling for about 3 months, including the time with the party. I mean,
Yeah, for her, this has been the worst summer vacation ever so far. That's it. I'm done with my summer
Spring break
abroad. I'm
was
going to
supposed
go
to be more
home.
fun than this.
I specifically left a lot of her backstory up to interpretation too, because I wanted to be surprised by that. So when discovering that her mom was a caster and was familiar with the sending spell, and that her father, who I just said I wanted him to be in the military. I didn't even say he's alive or he's dead or anything. I wanted to be surprised by that, and to find out that he's like, what did you say? He's the lead general. He's not
He's
of
one
the
of
triumvirate.
he's not of the, but he's a head, one of the head generals. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like that was just amazing, and that was just pure enjoyment on my end. That learning about her parents, learning that her country's not what she thought it was, all of that stuff has just been amazing, and the emotional roller coaster she has gone on is not something I expected her to go on this early into her travels.
I think I've had like there's been like a few surprises, but I think everything so far has been as expected because we haven't like gone really onto Baltaim's like arc yet. I feel like it's not had it's like been touched on lightly. We've like had the little like foreshadowing of it, but I don't think it's happened. It's like not it's like in the works coming. So I think then when that happens, I think there definitely could be stage for me to be like, oh, I did not expect that. But like so far it's been as expected because it's kind of been what I've expected so far. But it's been some slight like okay, there's a connection here to something else. It's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. That's like, okay, I see. And so there's been some slight surprises, but we haven't got too far into Baltaim yet.
His
so
character,
like
yeah. I mean, with mine, I came in with no expectations other than I had an expectation of quality, which has already been exceeded for one. And I left a gaping chasm in Quinn's backstory and just said, put whatever you want in there. I'm good. And that's because I implicitly trust the DM to be very comfortable and very good at filling in those gigantic plot holes. I am surprised and very pleased so far. And I'm actually surprised that I am surprised because it's one of those things where, I know something cool is going to be coming. That's like, oh, dang, okay. You went for that goes further than I thought. That's awesome. So
I'll say this to, I guess, Jake and Chad, did either of you expect to have this dual nature sort of existential crisis happening for either of your characters?
Nope. Rennie, you're like stealing my question.
Yeah,
I think you're stealing my question.
Wait, hold on. Caleel, now you asked the question. We'll just pretend like that last one didn't happen. Go ahead.
No. I just
take the thunder back.
No, like it's just like
you could ask me one next, but I just wanted to, because we're still on the idea of like what arc did you expect sort of your character to go through, and just wondering if you ever thought that that this would be something that your character would go through, and are you also surprised at the choices for the character that you've made in the story, given how things have sort of turned out?
I mean, I 100% knew that Oriana was going to start off wanting to be a follower of Ioun and then just go over to the dark side. No.
Always black and white with you. Just
I was making a joke. Anyway.
He's a gentleman.
Yeah, he is. Smooth as hail.
100%
Literally.
was surprised.
Yeah, I know. I know what I did.
I was literally 100% surprised that Oriana ended up siding with Asmodeus. That was never anything I had intended. That was never anything I was even really considering. Even when you started teasing it, I was like, no way she goes through this. There was like a part of me that was like, but wouldn't it be kind of neat to see what that story would be? But I feel like a broken record because I've said it so many times on What's the Damage, but the moment Lex pointed out that the redemption of a god could be her story and that she's seen it done before, that was the first moment where I was like, oh, Oriana might just go with Asmodeus.
Just for the story.
And not for power or anything, but because that would be a great story.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not expect any kind of anything that's been coming up so far, because I don't know. I was playing, I was having a hard enough time figuring out how one god worked, and then having to not only figure out a multitude of divinities and also how he himself fits into it all as a person and a follower of anything. It makes for very interesting existential quandaries that require a thing that only exists on graph paper to analyze big questions about his life that I, as an adult human man, don't even address about mine. So it's getting me out of having to think a lot of big thoughts about myself for once. So that's nice. But it's also just fun to try and see exactly where this character's head is going to be at when confronted with things like this. You know, like, well, you were a real shitbag, so your god's mad at you, but this other one thinks you did a really fine job. How does that make you feel about yourself? Also, is he actually that bad? No, he's not technically. So what does any of it mean? Nothing. The universe is chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is like loosely like close to that, but it's like, because all three of our characters, there is some sense of like duality with our like the gods we walk, like for especially us three, so far, because Baltame has his thing with
the others aren't really well. I mean, Sinric kind of follows forward, but not really.
Right.
His campaign is not really religious.
But
Dobby certainly wasn't, and Perry.
Yeah, us three specifically is like super like. I know for Quinn and me at least, there are definitely like gods entwined with our characters.
Yeah.
As like
you had that as part of your backstory, yeah.
Right, and Oriana's sort of like becoming like folded in that too. Mm-hmm. So my question, I guess, is like we're all like at different stages of like acceptance and like peace with our duality of it. And so, is there anything like that you guys see that maybe you, from your like character's point of view, that you yearn for from that other like point of view of that character, or maybe you don't like of that other like the dealings you have with that like as the other character, like you like dislike of like that other character's like interworkings with their two like duality of their gods?
I would say it's very bold of you to assume that Oriana has any level of acceptance for the choice she has made.
I said
everyone's in three
different stages of acceptance. That's what I'm saying.
Oriana doesn't accept what she had for breakfast most mornings. I mean, she's that conflicted about any choice. She say, "Oh God, I had the toast. Does this mean the village will die?"
I would say like Baltame seems pretty like it doesn't seem to be affecting Baltame. He's like, this is our deal here, and I worship one god here. Like that's it. And it seems like he's at the most zen with it so far.
I think he's also in a little bit of a different place, right? Because the Raven Queen and Avandra aren't really that diametrically opposed, or at least that teaching has not been portrayed in the histories and in the religious texts of the world that most people are privy to. So for him, he doesn't have to deal with the fact that he may give in to certain behaviors that that are not necessarily the brightest points of being immortal and having free will, kind of.
He doesn't have the moral quandary with it yet.
Yeah, I mean, not yet, so anyways.
Yeah, so far.
But I think that also puts him in a little bit of a better place, because there's not been a point where something he has done for one or the other goes against one of the other's points of view. So for him, it hasn't put him in a position where he's had to make a choice that's really affected him. Whereas the other two are kind of in a different place where they really are seeing parts of themselves that weren't as highlighted before, because it just seemed like this is just a part of me. This is just who I am, and this is just how I do things. And no one ever called them on it, I think. Right. And now they're being called out for it by these celestial beings. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's a behavior I have. Yeah. And it's up to them to decide, is that good or bad or indifferent, or is it a necessary? Is it by any means necessary for certain, points in their lives? Like that's kind of like where I think they have to kind of figure things out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't think it'll get awkward for Baltaim until both gods ask him to the Sadie Hawkins dance.
Which, I mean, that's coming. It's definitely coming.
If to answer the original question real quick though, Oriana's probably jealous of Quinn getting to trial run both in a way, because she very much was presented with the option, the idea, given some time to think about it, and then very quickly had to make a choice.
I mean, with Quinn, he was very against this whole idea in actual terms, about a good 5 minutes. And then having actually had I want to say come to Jesus, but Jesus wasn't involved. Come to Melora / Bane meeting that he had with the pair of them. He kind of understands where they're both at. And the one thing over every other thing that was said by Bane that made him really latch on to the idea of, okay, this guy can't be all bad, was in he very specifically threatened Quinn with violence, specific violence, mind you, if he did anything to hurt his sister's feelings again. Like, hey, fucker, you make her cry, I'll break you in half. Like,
respect.
As a guy who's been an overly protective brother before, I can respect that. And that was his whole line of thing, like, you can't be all bad if you're going to threaten to murder me over family. That's a very admirable trait. So they're like, okay, I have no choice but to do both of these things at once right now. So I'm going to make the most of it and see what I can learn about both of them at the same time. So, I mean, yeah, no, at first he was digging his heels in like a kid in the middle of what used to be a Toys R Us that did not want to leave till they got that last Lego set. But now he's just sort of like, okay, both of these things have something to offer. I need to see whatever it is I can bring and what they can bring for me as well. How can the relationships progress, and what is the logical terminus there?
Yeah, I think if like Baltaim was like omniscient and aware of it, I think that's something he would probably be envious of too. Like he it seems like Quinn has, even though like he might not be like, at a equilibrium with them, it seems like there's more of an involvement with them, and there's more of a like talking, like, we're trying to work out these kinks and let's see like how we work all three of us together. I think that's Baltaim just wants friends, he just want to talk to gods. He's like, hey, let's just chat, let's have tea.
I mean, that's what Oriana wanted with Ioun too, to be honest.
You got to try and get on her social calendar.
To the book club.
You got to try and get on her social calendar further in advance than like, hey, I need you for something right now. You got to try and like lay the groundwork in there, like send a few texts that aren't just, hey, you up.
You got to take her to dinner before you try to get her in bed, man.
She would have.
Oriana just sending Ioun plant emojis.
Just saying the hey, big head text.
Any other questions?
I think I have one for Jake.
All right.
But I don't know if it's you don't have to answer it. I just I'm gonna ask though. So we've mentioned it before, but Oriana's like relatively like close to the vest on like a lot of things in general. Like I feel like the first character I know like the least about so far is probably her and Cynric. Is there something? But yet she's like very like invested in like other people's like stories and everything else though. Is there something maybe like a personal like that a character choice that she's not like also you don't have to go in great detail because obviously I want to find out like in the game, but it's like something that in like a character choice that's something she's slow to trust because of it, something in her character that she's slow to trust and fully give up all of herself to like people and like opening up to people.
I'm wondering how I want to answer that.
Truthfully.
Or you can lie to me. That's fine.
It's not that she doesn't trust people in the group. It's that she doesn't think her own story is worth telling yet. I'll say that much.
Okay.
But at this point, seeing all of the other stories that unfold, seeing as how everything has, from what you've seen, the most mundane of beginnings, at what point does she realize that her story also has to be worth telling, considering that it is just as valid as everybody else's, because you're all coming from nothing and becoming something else?
I would say think about Oriana as a character and why she wouldn't think her story is worthwhile.
I think you'll find out, but I think I get where Oriana's, like, if you look at like what Quinn has talked about his entire, and what they've learned from his sister, about his people and what happened there, like that is extreme and terrifying and very real and supernatural and like hard to wrap your mind around. Baltaim, the stuff that they've learned so far about what might have to do with the people that he's going after and his sister, is also very like fantastical. How Baltaim even found himself in this place of like on their trail, and the deal that he has made with, you know, how he got his abilities is also very fantastical. Perry talking about her village being
lady,
her village being very sick and people's dying and them being unable to revive them, and then, you know, this sickness going through in her, and the fact that there are 5 tribes that they're now meeting and that they're defending shackles to a mad god. That's also fantastical. So I think Oriana, her story to her is just I made decisions and I have a family and whatever.
Right.
She still has 2 loving parents who are alive, doing very well for themselves, has a home to go back to, you know, compared to all of these other people who are like, you know, in various states of disarray.
Yeah, but you're using the
chaos.
most extreme examples of epic grandeur as far as those other stories.
But that's who she's around. That's who she's
been
traveling with.
Even Dobby.
Oh, Dobby had a revenge trip that he wanted to go on. He had one guy he wanted to have dead.
I think the only person she maybe is feels that she's as mundane as is like Cynric, because he really hasn't even opened up, and all he said was, I lived as a fisherman and worked with Dobby sometimes.
Yeah, and him and Campion, who's like, I'm sickly. I'm sickly, and look, I have a robot dog that I made in the image of a real dog that died. That's
he's
not
like,
weird.
He's the adopted son of an elf and a dwarf.
Yeah, I'm an adopted son of an elf and a dwarf. I'm very sick and dying. I've been trying to work on this, and I've been hunting down snake people because I think that there's a lead to something important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I was just interested because like you said, like I said, Oriana and Cynric seem like the most. I know them, like, even like I think like me and Baltaim and Perry are like the closest of friends, I would say. But I feel like Baltaim and Perry, like, I understand a lot about Perry and like Quinn, even Campion to some degree. I feel like I understand like enough about them, but I feel like Oriana and Cynric are like kind of these like enigmas still, and I'm kind of I understand, like, I know we'll probably get into it, but I'm just like wondering if like is that a character choice? Is that like something to be revealed later? I just was wondering as like
I think it's because she doesn't know enough about it either, to be honest.
That's fair.
I mean, keep in mind, she didn't know her mom was a caster.
Yeah.
That kind of tells you a lot about her story. She didn't know her mom knew magic, and she learned magic from a guy that she met one day.
Any other questions? I mean, we can go a little bit longer tonight.
Yeah.
Just a few more minutes.
I have a question, sort of like the curation of your character. Like how far removed from like your initial like makings of this character are is like or not removed if they haven't been too far from your like original envisionings of it, or from the character it is like in this current model, like how far like removed from that like original like rough draft of like this is what Quinn is, or even if they weren't named Quinn before,
Yeah.
like, oh, this is Quinn. Like how
Yeah.
far removed from that are you in this, or if you haven't, like how not far removed are you from it?
The only thing for Oriana, at least, that I really kind of had as an idea that would be a persistent problem for the character is unwanted attention from suitors. You know, people just coming up to her and pestering her, and that kind of came up in the pre-stream level 1
Yeah, session
session.
0.
And it kind of came up again in Serenity with the guy coming up and asking her to
Zarithamar?
dance.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Zarithamar, the guy coming up to her and asking her to dance. But
Yeah, but that was like polite and
he
like
was
yeah.
polite. It was
Yeah.
not like, "Hey baby, how you doing?" So that
Yeah.
was like the one instance of like someone approaching her, aside from Quinn, really, and approaching her and just being kind to her, not for any kind of ulterior motive. But
Right.
considering we've spent most of the game on the road, I can see why that hasn't come up very much.
I think Quinn has entirely gotten away from where I had him originally, because he starts off as this clueless, hot-headed moron who has no idea of what he's doing, where he's going. He just knows he needs to fucking get there, and he needs to get there now, you know? And now he has become more introspective in trying to just figure out the nature of himself, and by doing that also the nature of the world around him, and even the nature of reality, considering how all of his preconceptions about certain things have been completely thrown in the toilet. And he's had to question so many things that it's forcing him to do that at this point. And it is not what I originally had the idea for. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying that as this is
Right.
not what I originally thought of, and I'm enjoying the direction that it's going. It's the best kind of messed up.
Yeah. I can tell you like
Yeah.
just my initial rough draft is like completely different from like this I think I mentioned before, like Baltimore was like a tiefling, like one of my rough drafts, like
Mhm.
like I want to wait till like our tell all like the end of all this, like because I have like a whole bunch of ideas for multi, but like I think so far like even now I think like I found it in the beginning, I found it hard to do like how I was gonna like do comedy with Baltimore, because like I always never want to be like a super serious character.
Mm.
And like I think in the beginning I was kind of a more of a straight man, like a foil to Dobby, because Dobby was so fucking off the walls.
Yeah.
But now I think more of Baltimore's like playful like banter has like kind of shown through, and like that's more like akin to like me as a person. I feel like it's made it easier to make make his like funny side come out in like a way that's not strange or like weird to like to make the character do that type of way.
Any last burning questions?
Who's your favorite member of Lux Eterna?
Oh, I was gonna ask.
Who, me?
Yeah, I was gonna ask DM.
I mean,
why is
I think you guys
Baltaim?
already know who it is.
Why is Baltaim / me your favorite character and player? That / player. You know, just.
Oh, that's a difficult one.
Ask mom who her favorite kid is.
I mean, you're the least complicated.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Right now.
Baltaim just shows up.
But
is
yeah, I
smooth
mean,
as
you
hell,
guys.
and then
I think you
does
guys
his
know.
job.
Like, I mean, I Lux Eterna was built around the idea of Lex and having. I always knew from the beginning, like she was going to be the initial sort of guide into the first sort of arc of the campaign and potentially more. And then from there, I just built the rest of the group around it. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to make this into a previous adventuring party who dealt with this. Because if I want to go in the direction that I want to go for this campaign, you're going to need help. So that's my favorite member. But I do love all of them.
Who else? Everyone else's favorite member of Elk's Turn so far? I had to say we haven't had much time with her, but I enjoy Freya for like the bit we've had with Freya. It's a different type of like bickering than Lex, than in Freya.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, Freya is probably my favorite so far.
Awesome.
It's pretty close between Lex and Freya, and I think the only reason it's really super close is because I really like Freya's character in another campaign, and I think that rubs off a little bit. But I'd probably say Lex. Lex feels like a very serious guiding mentor to Oriana.
I'd love to hear what she says when
asshole.
you say that. I would love to hear what Lex would have to say if you actually said that to her.
Such a dick, honestly.
You fucking asshole.
Lex hasn't been that mean to Oriana directly. I mean, she's negged the group.
She's called her an idiot, I think.
Before. Yeah, I don't know. I think she's been the most.
Yeah, but I mean, Oriana knows that she deserves it sometimes. Oriana would never admit.
I think the only one she's probably not said anything is to a Sinric, and it's only because he hasn't said anything.
Yeah,
it's like trying to insult a rock wall.
Yeah,
is there a point? Yeah. You know, it just exists. I think for mine though, I would say and this goes off of what everybody else said so far, Erin, because she has been the most just
Erin's
straightforward, and as far as okay, you've done this, it was stupid, but let's move past that now, let's talk solution. You could do this. Now, if you do, this is what you're going to owe me. Are we cool here? We're cool here. Bamf. And then...
Erin's like that mom's like she's not upset. She's just disappointed. It's like, I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to judge you, but come on, let's pick up pace, type of thing. Yeah.
That's for my money, I'd say her.
Erin's up there.
Cool. All right. Well, we can wrap it up unless there's any last burning questions.
So when is Coriana happening, guys?
What?
Coriana?
Oh, about a month after Hell freezes over.
Okay,
that might occur, but
I mean, you might want to be careful with that. Asmodeus is kind of in charge of that place, and there's a specific level where it gets really, really cold.
I know. I'm just using the actual idiom. I've read Dante's Inferno. I'm quite familiar with it. Also, familiar with the levels of the 9 hells and how cold it is down there. I'll say this then to change the metaphor. It would be approximately about a year and a day after the demons and devils in the Blood War sign an eternal peace treaty.
What about Quintaim? When's that happening?
Yeah.
Hasn't thought about that one.
Yeah.
Because he's been busy.
Yeah. We're like Walter and Quinn probably when's our bromance happening, Quinn? Yeah. When's our bromance?
Well, the bromance is already happening. That's the thing. The bromance is totally already on board.
All right.
As far as from bromance to romance, you got to get rid of the
B. Sure, but the bromance is strong with those two.
Hey, all things adventurous,
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Well, thanks everyone for this special edition of What's the Damage. You got to hear some interesting tidbits from our players about. I'm actually surprised they didn't ask me more campaign stuff, which is great because I was worried I was going to have to be like, no, I can't share that.
Yeah, I think I didn't go that route because I figured you'd be like, I can't tell you. So it's like, oh, well, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, there are certain things I can't.
Yeah.
I'd ruin the whole campaign for you. I have to change it all. And I've already paid for art, so it's just not happening. No, but seriously. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed. Hopefully, Truth will be back next week. Hopefully, her power will be back. I would hope so, because I can't imagine living like 2 weeks without power in the freezing cold. Or at least hopefully the weather gets better in some of these parts of the United States, and they're able to pull themselves out of their power outages. But we will be back again next Tuesday, barring apocalyptica. And we do have another episode, another session of Roll for Damage this Friday, where do they get out of the mine? Do they TPK in the mine? Do they go back to the door with the dagger and serpent? Do they go back to the pit with the rope and try to figure that out again? We don't know. But we will find out on Friday. So don't forget, that starts at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. And yeah, thanks a bunch for sticking with us and watching. And we hope you have a good night. See you later.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.